fear or faith. And I know when I operated out of fear, for example, I'm not good enough. People are going to think I'm stupid. I can't sing well. What if people do not care what people think of you? They're not paying your bills. They're not you. And most people that are bullying or spreading hate is because they feel that way about themselves.
Hey everybody, it's Ronnie here with Daybreak Star Radio, the only station indigenizing the airwaves. And I am so excited right now because we have an interview today with Jessa Sky. I'm so
That's
excited.
it.
Thank you
Hello.
so much for speaking with us, Jessa. I appreciate it
Thank
so
you for
much.
this. Absolutely. Well, Tanse, everyone. Hello. I am Jessa Sky. I'm a singer-songwriter. Some people call me an influencer. I don't know. I share everything on social media from mental health to addiction to everything, and I incorporate that into my music. And I am from Fort McKay First Nation, Treaty 8 territory. I did not grow up on Treaty 8 territory. I grew up in Treaty 6 territory, which is in around the Edmonton, Alberta area.
So, can you share with us a bit about your journey as a musician? Like, what inspired
Yeah.
you to pursue a career in music to begin with?
I never really thought I could actually make it in music. Like I just know as a little girl, it was like my safe place and my safe haven to sing and write when I was going through abuse, and just stuff that no kid should ever have to go through. And I gave up on that dream of being a singer a long time ago. Like, but I know when I was little, I just remember like sitting. I actually have the same stool that I perform with, like crazy. I realized that a few years ago, but sat on it in my room, singing, writing, um, and I kind of was too scared. I was like a shy native girl, like many that I come across when I do keynote speaking events, and I just felt so worthless, and so I didn't feel like I could amount to anything in that because to me I'm like, well, I can't be Lady Gaga. I can't be like how do you even get to that, right? But in 2018 in rehab, I actually sang karaoke. It's the only one and only time I've ever done karaoke, and like no one, like nothing bad happened after it. Like fear kept me back a lot in life, and so I sang that. And then in 2019, I started messing around at like local like dingy studios. Like I pray and I try to mentor other upcoming artists to never have to go through that because as a woman in the industry, right? Like it can be pretty scary. But
Mm.
uh yeah, my manager had found me through a track that I hadn't even released. And then that's kind of when in 2021, so there was a lot of like stuff in between that was never, I was not Jessa Sky, you should say. Like that's actually my middle name, is Sky, Valentine Sky. But yeah, I started in CBC Searchlight. That's really kind of what got me on the map in 2021 with my song On My Own. And since then, it's just been doing the next right thing and like having doors opened for me. And I think like to really, I don't want to say I got lucky, but I just feel like when you do something that you're meant to do and you stay true to yourself and you're honest with yourself and others, like everything kind of just like evolves into what it's been. So that's kind of how I got started professionally in music.
So your music blends, contemporary sounds with, of course, deep cultural influences. I was curious,
Yeah.
how do your Cree roots shape your artistry?
I just participated in an anti-racism documentary, and firsthand out of the gate, I said I will only participate in this if like I can talk about the lateral violence that I get from like my own people. And I think, for me, sobriety had to come first with how I incorporate my culture into my music, into my life, into like who I am as a person, my interactions on the day to day, because I grew up being discriminated against. Because my dad is a bit Mohawk, but he's mostly white. He's a Munya, and my mom is full Cree. So I kind of grew up not knowing where I belonged because my mom didn't grow up. Like she was in, the 60s scoop. And so she was in the schools and then she grew up with a white family. So I didn't connect with my culture until I was getting sober. And it's kind of just, I really incorporate, and this is where I can never really answer this question. I think sometimes how I feel like it needs to be answered because I just know I'm me, and so I go in sweat lodges ceremony. I have elders that I talk to like all the time. I consider them my grandparents because I never got to meet my biological grandparents, or much of my biological Cree family. I have a few, but most of them have died due to violence and, addiction and all that. So I incorporate it by like actively learning about my culture, but also not like I don't know everything. And I try to tell people that that's okay because I didn't grow up with it. So it's no fault of my own, but I'm actively trying to do better for myself. And like what's natural to me, I pray and meditate every single morning. I have to for my own sanity. Smudging and all of that. And I love to incorporate my culture with what I wear. So um, I always tell people when they're trying to find their identity, when they didn't get to grow up with it, it's like have some grace on yourself because it's it's we might all be Cree, but we're all just human beings at the end of the day. And so I find just do what's true to you. Like I wear it in my outfits. I have a Cree tutor who's a friend that I'm trying to learn the language and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like my own journey at my own pace, and I don't need to get anyone else's approval per se. But I think that's why it resonates through my music, because when I am writing about something, it's authentic. I'm going through it, and people can feel that energy. They know that, like I can see when people are just using the Indigenous title, they use the Indigenous title, and I never want to be that way. And like, if anything, I'm trying to do my music and my sound where, we've always deserved to take up space. And I love that us as Indigenous people are getting recognition, but we always deserve that recognition. And we don't need an Indigenous title in front of us to take up that space. Right. So I'm trying to kind of just show that, yeah, hey, I'm a singer. I'm also Native. And like, if you like me, you like me, like, and just because I think we're so hard on ourselves, I was very hard on myself and ashamed for many years because I was like, well, like I'm Native, but what does that mean? Like, like I don't know much. So I actively seeked out the work by getting sober. And then that just kind of like organically happened.
What goes into your songwriting process?
I think it's definitely evolved like over the years. I found my like lyric book or journal from when I was 12, and man, was I going through it. Like I'm like, this is some deep stuff. Like I found it and I was like, whoa, like, are you okay? My first song I wrote was called Unstoppable, which is super interesting. It'll never see the light of day, but that's just like I've never told anyone that. You got the first dibs on that. But um my process for writing is seriously, it's not like I have voice memos obviously in my phone. My voice memos are either like a melody, a hook, an idea, or it's trauma from a past relationship. So it's like playing with fire when you open that app. But I usually book the studio. And I hammer out like 2 songs in 2 hours. Like I reach out to my producer Conch, shout out okay Conch, and I'm like, I need to write this song. Like I lost my partner to suicide. We weren't together at the time, but that'll come out. It's called Grieving. And I was finally ready. So like I messaged him, we got to get in the studio now. I will send him what I hear in my head, voice memo wise, and then we'll start to build the beat together. And it just comes out. Like it's really like my safe haven. And I don't write the song until I have the beat.
When you sit down for that song, do you know what story you're telling at that moment?
Yes, I do know. Like, I don't just go to the studio if I'm not inspired. Like, I actually was just talking to my producer today, asking. I said, "There's a song we need to change. Like, this person is no longer in my life, but it's a good song. But now it's not authentic. So now I'm going to go back in on the 24th and completely redo it. Like, not redo, but I'm going to see what happens. I just know that it's not authentic anymore to like who I am now, and this person is no longer in my life. So it just I'm so big on integrity and honesty, like for myself. That's what keeps me sober. So like when I released Lovin' on my EP, it was about a really abusive relationship. So I was like, well, I don't feel like I can release this anymore.
Hmm.
And so what I did was with the video and like, I put the voice memos in of how much pain and trauma I was actually enduring in that relationship. It was no longer, so that's how I released it to be real. Like, like I wrote this with the intent, I loved this person, but this person, like this was not love. And so, yeah, I definitely always have the story in my head, and especially for music videos as well.
So, as an Indigenous artist, we talked a little bit about this before, but what are some of the other challenges, you have faced when, working in the music industry? And, how have you kind of like overcome them?
At the beginning, I had like a whole team, which is wild to look back on. I had a stylist, I had a manager, I had PR, I had a grant writer, I had like everyone around me at the beginning, which was such a blessing at the time because I had no idea who I was. I was in active addiction. Where actually inevitably that team had gotten rid of me because I just couldn't stay sober. I couldn't keep it together. We're still now, like now him and I are homies, you know, like we're friends and we'll go have coffee dates and like do work and not talk to each other, you know, and I like, you know, that's the beauty of recovery is you can mend relationships that were broken. And so, as an independent artist, you know, I had to realize that I was getting completely screwed over with royalties. I lost out on a lot of money, which I've never talked about publicly. It doesn't matter anymore, really. Like I learned the lesson, but I think what I would want people to know, if you're going to go into this career, don't do it for the money. If you're going to do it for the money, you're not going to last. This is what I was meant and put on this earth to do. So therefore, the work, like 10%, maybe 5% is actually singing on stage and getting to meet my fans, my Jessa Sky angels, I call them. 90% of it is emails, promoting myself. Like, you know, like thank goodness I love content and social media. And I think that's why people gravitate toward me because I'm just like, I show everything online. Like I'm who I am behind the camera and in front of the camera. But don't go against your intuition. You know, there's many times where something was not right. And I didn't have the self-worth to like allow myself to have a voice. And honestly, I I just would tell people to like know who you are.
And I'm wondering what it is you hope audiences will take away after seeing you perform a live show.
Well, there's two things. That's a good
Okay.
question. I want people to cry.
Aw, okay.
Like I feel like, and I don't mean that in
You
a
want
bad
them to
way, but
feel it.
I want them to feel it and I want them to feel seen. I want, you know, now that I'm getting into bigger shows, like I headlined a show in New Mexico, like honest, like I have O'Shane Samuels, he's like my little brother. He would hate that I say that, but he's my musical director. He's also my drummer, and he's super good at like we're working on arrangements, like for tour. You know, like when you think of like in a stadium, like arrangements that it's like all about like it's like choreography, really transitioning into the next song. Like bigger the crowd, you want them to be like vibing. But for me, what I really really love is the smaller, intimate performances where I can talk to people and connect with them. And like afterwards, my favorite thing at my shows is going into the audience. Like when I was on tour with Matt Mac, you know, like when he's performing, I'm in the crowd with people, talking to them, hugging them. Like it is my favorite thing. Like the fact, you know, before this was recording, you're like, I'm a huge fan. Like that shit, if I don't know if I can swear, that shit keeps me going because the fact that someone actually feels like seen or something from my sound or my song or my story, I'm like, it makes me emotional because there's so many times where I feel like there's been also so many times where I'm just like why am I doing like, you know, I didn't want to live, you know, so to have someone be like, I understand, you know, I haven't wanted to live either, but your song, when I listen to it, you know, like that's just like priceless. It's such an honor. And so I want people to have fun, but I also want them to like know that amidst the pain, they're not alone. Like I truly like there's the worst thing, you know, even if I'm in a borderline episode, like last week I was in one, I'm like, I feel so alone. Like I feel so alone and I know I'm not alone, but like I get it. I get it. And I just want people to just feel love.
How important is community when it comes to your music career?
It's everything. Like it's totally everything. I have a small circle. Um, but I am forever, ever grateful for the fact that I have boundaries today and that, you know, I don't have anyone around me. I've had to learn a couple more lessons of that, but I'm human. But the people I have around me, I would do anything for, like my video team, my musical director, my sound engineer, my bass player, my guitar player, Maddie, you know, like he's like my younger brother. And so being, you know, his band I got to meet, and then my band and his band got to meet, and they're such good people. And you know, like I said earlier, you're only on stage for an hour, maybe. And then the rest of the time is who you are around. And if you don't have integrity, character, you know, like I want nothing to do with you. Like it is never going to be at like, I'm not just going to keep, you know, it's about relationship and community and who are these people behind the camera? What are they doing? Like, you know, are they struggling? Do they need help? Like it's about being your authentic self, but that also comes with like who you surround yourself with. And especially the Indigenous community, like when I get to go do keynote speaking events, you know, like I don't just sing, I share my story, right? And it is so incredible to meet these youth that have like literally been through so much, you know, and it's like it's not something like I take lightly. Like they are our future, and I just want to be able to inspire them a little bit because they inspire me probably like way more than I probably inspire them. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm not special. I'm not different. Like, I'm just honest and I share everything. But how many other people are going through that? Like,
Right.
we're humans. We go through things, we feel things. And if anything, we haven't been through the same thing, but we feel the same emotions
Yep.
about stuff.
What should we expect in the future from Jessa Sky? We know we have coming up here soon. Your new single Healing comes out March 21st. Everyone will be able to listen to hear Daybreak Star Radio. But what else can we see in the future?
A few appearances, gigs I'm not allowed to talk about, but I also have my Look at Me Now Volume 2 EP coming out. Due to funds and being completely self-funded, I've had to stall. I usually release every 4 weeks. And then
Hmm.
like I did for Look at Me Now with music videos and stuff, but I was spending a lot of money from my own pocket to do that, which was totally an investment. That's another thing if people are watching, invest back what you make into your career. That is how you like don't waste it on stuff that's not your career. But I have Healing coming out, and then I have 2 more tracks, and then I'll have a bonus one when the EP is released. And I'm hoping to aim that for June, July at the latest, if creator blesses me with some funds. But I have an album release party I'm going to do in Edmonton, and I'm thinking of doing it in another city as well. I'm not sure where I would do it, probably either Calgary or Winnipeg. I do have a lot of connections out there, or maybe in Seattle, who knows? And then I am doing something in June that I can't speak of, but it's a huge Indigenous event.
Ooh.
Yeah, and what else? Yeah, I think that's about it. But I do have a lot of things not official, but when they're official, you'll see it all over my social media. But basically, just releasing a single now. After Healing, I'm going to try to do it every 4 weeks. There'll be 3 music videos coming out with that.
Wow.
My podcast, Sky Talks, is coming in April. I'm going back to Canada in a couple days here to shoot that.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just have guests on. It's kind of like we're healing and humor collide, like I've been through a lot of sad crap, but like let's just like laugh about it and let's connect and so that's called Sky Talks and that will be out in April.
So, what would
Yeah.
be the best advice in your mind that you could give for Indigenous youth who want to pursue a career in music or in any art form?
So what I would tell them if they want to pursue something in music or any art form is the talent that I've seen from our youth is insane, whether it's drawing, whether it's video, whether it's singing, whether it's music. Pursue it, and it's like fear is there's fear of faith. And I know when I operated out of fear, for example, I'm not good enough. People are going to think I'm stupid. I can't sing well. What if people do not care what people think of you? They're not paying your bills. They're not you. And most people that are bullying or spreading hate is because they feel that way about themselves. So I always tell the youth, I was a child and youth care worker. I still kind of am, but I work full-time music now. Do what you love and it shouldn't feel like work. And if it's something that's an outlet for you, that's positive, that's not drugs, that's not alcohol, do it. Like whether, you don't have access to resources or use what's free, but don't ever give up on something that feeds your soul and your spirit. And you just can't go wrong if you put yourself first. And like my best advice is to just do it one day at a time because I thought I wanted to be a singer when I was little, but I had no idea what does that mean, And I think like our journey of evolving and maturing and growing up is if you're doing something actively every day, you're going to get better at it. And if it's authentic to you, then it's not work. Like if you love drawing and you're drawing every day, you're already basically investing in what you should be doing for the rest of your life, whether that's graphic
Mm.
design or, and I find a lot of our Indigenous youth are so creative and talented like and they just are already subconsciously doing it, if that makes
Mm.
sense. Like when they're
Yeah.
telling me about themselves, I'm like, you're already doing it, sister. Like you're already doing it. You're making it more complicated than it needs to be. Post on social media that you drew this, or it's very simple if we like take a step back. So yeah, that was a lot of advice, but basically just stay focus one day at a time and try to do one thing a day that scares you a little bit, like that makes you uncomfortable, because that's where the growth happens, right?
We're artists who happen to be Indigenous, but you can be stifled by it through the industry because we're so new to this representation that's coming to us. And in terms of being Native and facing the challenges, it's more like being underestimated because you're a Native artist. I rise to the occasion.